Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a really fascinating mission, something tailor-made just for you, our listeners. We're going to pull back the curtain on something pretty crucial for anyone advertising online, specifically on Amazon. It's data analysis and performance measurement in PPC advertising. And our special focus today, a clever strategy called dayparting. Think of dayparting, well, like creating a TV schedule, but for your online ads. Instead of just running them all the time, you strategically show them only when your audience is most likely to be paying attention and actually ready to buy. But here's the big question, right? How do we know when those perfect times actually are? And once we think we've found them, how do we prove our strategy is genuinely working? Not just a fluke. That's exactly what this deep dive is all about.
Precisely. Our goal today is to really unpack how advertisers collect the data, how they interpret it, and maybe most importantly, how they act on it. To truly understand the effectiveness of these timing-based advertising strategies. We'll start with the foundational metrics, the things you absolutely need to track. Then we'll explore some more advanced statistical methods. These help prove the real impact of your decisions. And finally, we'll look at how external factors and, well, cutting-edge tech like AI are rapidly changing the whole game. So get ready to discover how smart data analysis can transform, guesswork into genuinely game-changing decisions for your business.
Okay, let's unpack this then. If we're going to strategically show ads only at certain times, well, we absolutely need a way to measure if that's actually boosting our sales and helping the bottom line, right? So what are the core key performance indicators, the KPIs, that advertisers should be tracking? How do we evaluate if dayparting is, hitting the mark?
Yeah, that's exactly the right place to start. The fundamental idea behind measuring dayparting success, it always comes down to profitability and efficiency. Always. So you absolutely need to track your return on ad spend, ROAS. Think of ROAS as the direct answer to how much revenue am I getting back for every single dollar I put into these ads? A high ROAS is definitely your goal. Closely related is advertising cost of sale, or ACOS. This basically tells you your ad spend as a percentage of your sales revenue. And here, a lower AQS is generally what you're aiming for. It means you're spending less to earn the same amount of sales. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Lower cost is good.
Exactly. Beyond those two big ones, there are several other crucial KPIs. Your click-through rate, CTR for instance, that measures how many people clicked your ad compared to how many actually saw it. Shows relevance, engagement. Then there's conversion rate, CVR. This one's critical because it tells you how many of those clicks actually turned into purchases. That's the ultimate goal. We also look at cost per click, CPC. Pretty straightforward how much you pay each time someone clicks your ad. And impression share, IS, helps you understand your visibility. It's the percentage of times your ad was shown compared to all the possible times it could have been shown in auctions. Now, for dayparting specifically, budget utilization efficiency becomes incredibly important.
Budget utilization efficiency. Okay, tell me more about that one.
Right. So this metric shows you the percentage of your daily ad budget that is actually spent during the specific prioritized advertising times you've identified as high-performing. For example, a key best practice here, it's to strategically allocate, say, 70 to 80% of your daily ad budgets to your top maybe 6 to 8 high conversion rate hours. That's where you really get the most bang for your buck. You focus the spend where it counts.
That makes perfect sense. Focus the spend. So, okay, we know what KPIs to look for, but the big question then is how do advertisers actually collect all this hourly performance data? Where do they even get this super detailed hour-by-hour information? How do they pinpoint those optimal advertising windows you mentioned?
That's a great question, and it's really where the rubber meets the road, practically speaking. The primary source for this incredibly granular hourly data on Amazon, it's a service called Amazon Marketing Stream. This service delivers hourly performance metrics directly to advertisers. It includes vital info like clicks, conversions, and your ad spend, all broken down hour by hour. Advertisers then take this data and analyze it, and they start to spot really clear trends. For example, the data consistently reveals that lunchtime, maybe 12 p.m. to 2 p.m., and then evenings, say 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., are reliably peak conversion times for e-commerce. This pattern just shows up again and again in the data stream.
Interesting. Lunch and evenings.
Yeah. But here's a crucial detail, especially if you're a seller operating across multiple regions, maybe the US and Europe or different time zones. Amazon Marketing Stream delivers all this data in coordinated universal time, UTC.
UTC. Okay, so not local time.
Exactly. Which means you, the advertiser, absolutely need to reprocess and convert this data into the local buyer time zones. Why? Because if you don't, you risk something called misattribution. Big problem. For instance, a sale recorded at, say, 02.00 UTC Shay, well, that might actually be a 7 p.m. EST conversion in New York. Prime time. If you don't convert that time, that truly high-performing evening hour could be mistakenly labeled as off-peak and excluded from our bids. Just because the raw UTC data looked like a quiet middle-of-the-night hour, it's subtle, but it can completely throw off your strategy.
Wow, okay. That's a critical detail, converting UTC. Got it. So this raises another really important question for me. Once you've got all this detailed data and you've converted the times correctly, how do you really know? How do you know if the improvements you're seeing in your ad performance are actually because of your day-parting strategy, or if it's, just a coincidence? Something else changed. How do advertisers truly distinguish between correlation, two things happening together, and actual causation, one thing causing the other?
This is precisely where statistical rigor becomes absolutely critical. You can't just guess or assume. You need to move beyond simply observing that two things are happening around the same time, which, as you said, is correlation. You need to definitively prove that one action, like implementing day parting, actually causes the other, like improved ACOS or ROAS. And the gold standard for doing this, it's through experimental design, specifically using A/B testing and holdout groups.
Okay, A/B testing, like in website design.
Exactly like that, yeah. Here's how it works in practice for ads. You apply your day parting strategy, maybe only running ads during those peak 7-10 p.m. hours to a treatment group of your campaigns. Meanwhile, a similar control group of campaigns continues to run continuously, 24/7, no day parting applied. By directly comparing the performance, the ROAS, the ACOS, the conversion rate of these two groups over the same period, you can effectively isolate and measure the true impact of day parting. For example, one B2B tool company did exactly this. They saw a 15% ACOS reduction in their day parted campaigns, and crucially, their control groups. They showed virtually no change in ACOS. That clearly validated the causal link. Day parting caused the improvement.
That makes sense. The control group proves it wasn't just a market trend.
Precisely. Now, beyond these direct experiments, advertisers also use specific statistical models to dig deeper and uncover causal links, especially when looking at performance patterns over time. One powerful tool is Granger Causality. It sounds complex, but the idea is simple. This model tests if past changes in one time series, like your ad spend during morning hours, can actually predict future changes in another time series, like same-day sales. For instance, a study focusing on coffee products. It demonstrated Granger causality, and it was statistically significant, with a p-value less than 0.05 between bids placed during the 7 to 9 a.m. window and the sales that happened later that same day. It confirmed a clear causal relationship. Bidding early helped drive sales.
Granger Causality. Okay, interesting name. What else?
Another really valuable method is difference in differences. This technique is brilliant, actually. It compares the change in performance in your day-parted group versus the change in performance in a non-day-parted control group over multiple time periods, before and after the change. It's especially useful because it helps isolate the true effect of your strategy by automatically factoring out any pre-existing trends or broader market changes that might influence both groups equally.
So it accounts for things changing generally over time.
Exactly. Now, sometimes your data is, well, nicely behaved. It fits a normal distribution, that classic bell curve shape. When it does, you can use powerful parametric methods, like repeated measures ANOVA. This is excellent for comparing performance across 3 or more time points within the same group of campaigns. Think about tracking, say, how athletes' performance changes across multiple training sessions. If you're dealing with data collected over a longer period, maybe with some missing data points, mixed effects models are incredibly useful. They can analyze factors you control, like ad timing, and factors that vary naturally, like campaign differences. You see this in drug trials a lot. And then there's ANCOVA, analysis of covariance. This method adjusts for any existing differences before you compare outcomes. Like in pain relief trials, they use ANCOVA to adjust for patients' starting pain levels to accurately see the drug's effect over weeks.
Okay, so those are for nice data. What if the data isn't normally distributed?
Mm-hmm.
Which happens a lot, I imagine.
It does happen frequently, yeah. In that case, you turn to non-parametric methods. The Friedman test is basically your non-parametric alternative for repeated measures. Good for ranked data, like judges' scores for wine quality over several tastings. Mm-hmm. If you need to compare the medians of 3 or more independent groups over time with non-normal data, the Kruskal-Wallis test is the tool, like comparing hourly sales across different weekdays, perhaps.
Friedman, Kruskal-Wallis.
Yeah.
Got it. Non-parametric options.
And finally, there are specialized temporal analysis techniques. These focus directly on patterns over time itself. Change point detection is fascinating. It precisely identifies moments where the statistical properties of your ad performance, like the average conversion rate or how much it varies, suddenly shift. It's like spotting the exact moment a stock price suddenly tanks or a machine starts failing. Tools like ArcGIS use algorithms like PELT for this. And for a simple comparison between just two specific time points, like before versus after an intervention, a basic paired t-test often does the trick.
Paired t-test. That one sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's pretty common. Now, all this statistical rigor isn't just about running tests. It also involves important steps like accounting for multiple comparisons. Basically, when you test many time slots, you increase the chance of a false positive. So you need to adjust your significance levels, p-values. And you need robust ways to handle missing data, maybe using those mixed models or techniques like multiple imputation so you don't lose statistical power. The ultimate goal through all these meticulous methods is to ensure you're making statistically reliable decisions. And this kind of precision, it translates directly into efficiency gains. We're talking a remarkable 20 to 35% efficiency gain in campaign performance. Because you're allocating bids to genuinely impactful time slots, not just ones that looked good by chance.
Wow, 20 to 35% gain just from being statistically rigorous.
Oh, significant.
But this brings up a really practical point. How much data do you actually need for all this? What kind of sample sizes, what time periods are required to make these day-parting decisions truly reliable? Not just based on a few lucky sales.
That's an absolutely crucial practical question. You can't make these decisions based on a handful of data points. To be truly confident, to achieve statistical reliability, you need a sufficient amount of data. The rule of thumb generally is to collect at least 100 conversions per time slot you're analyzing. So for instance, if you're specifically looking at performance between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. on weekdays, you need to accumulate 100 actual conversions within that specific window across your campaigns. This gives you 95% confidence in your findings, and it shows your observations aren't just random noise or a couple of lucky days.
100 conversions per time slot. Okay, that's a clear benchmark. What about the length of time to collect that data?
Good question. For the time period, if you want a good baseline analysis of weekly cycles, understanding those weekday versus weekend differences, you should collect data over at least 2 weeks. That captures a full cycle or two. If you're looking to make seasonal adjustments, especially during volatile periods like holidays, Black Friday, Prime Day, you need to extend that data collection. Aim for at least 4 weeks during those times. This helps normalize any weird spikes or dips that might happen during those big shopping events. And importantly, always prioritize using data from the last 30 to 90 days. Why? Because it ensures the data is relevant, it reflects current market conditions and consumer behavior. Older data might just represent outdated trends that don't apply anymore. Stick to these guidelines: 100 conversions per slot, 4 weeks of recent data, and you can significantly reduce wasted ad spend. We're talking 15 to 30% reduction. And you can dramatically improve your ROAS by 20 to 40%. It's about precision temporal targeting based on solid data.
Reduce waste by 15-30%. Improve ROAS 20-40%. Those are compelling numbers. Okay, this whole discussion about performance measurement conversions, it brings us perfectly to the topic of attribution. What exactly are conversion attribution windows in the Amazon ads world, and why are they so incredibly important for getting day parting right?
Right. Attribution windows. Think of them like an expiration date for a click's influence. Amazon primarily uses what's called last touch attribution. This means the conversion, the sale, gets credited entirely to the very last ad the shopper clicked before buying, as long as that click happened within a specific time frame, even if other ads influenced them earlier. Now, the length of this time frame, this window, it varies. For sponsored products ads managed in Seller Central, it's a 7-day window. For sponsored brands and sponsored display ads, also in Seller Central, it stretches to a 14-day window. And notably, if you're selling through Vendor Central, it's a consistent 14-day window for all ad types.
Okay, 7 days for SP, 14 for SBSD and vendor. Why does this difference matter so much for departing?
It matters hugely because of timing. Imagine a click happens late at night, say 2 a.m., when maybe intent is lower, but the actual purchase doesn't happen until 10 a.m. the next morning during peak hours. Without understanding and adjusting for the attribution window, that 10 a.m. conversion could be misattributed back to the off-peak 2 a.m. click. This makes it look like your late-night, potentially less effective advertising is driving sales it didn't really drive at that moment. It inflates the performance of off-peak times. And this isn't theoretical. Studies by IntentWise, for example, they demonstrate this clearly. They found Vendor Central's longer 14-day window attributes 35 to 50% more conversions to midday campaigns compared to Seller Central's shorter 7-day window. Why? because that longer window is better at capturing those extended consideration phases. People click, think, research, and then buy later that day or even days later. The shorter window misses more of that.
So the longer window catches more of the delayed impact from daytime clicks. Makes sense.
Exactly. So how do you manage this? You can be proactive. For example, you could strategically reduce bids for keywords that tend to have a long conversion lag ones. People research a lot before buying, especially during those traditionally low-intent hours like 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. You might also consider using tighter 48-hour attribution models for products that are typically bought quickly, like impulse buys, just to get a more immediate read on impact. And critically, specialized third-party tools like IntentWise or Scale Insights are really invaluable here. They can actually help you reallocate conversions based on the actual purchase time, not just the last click time. Essentially, they can exclude those late-night clicks from your ROAS calculations if the purchase happened much later during peak hours. This significantly improves your data accuracy, often by 18 to 22%. And this integration, combining real-time data adjustments with sophisticated models, it can lead to a really significant 25 to 40% improvement in your overall day parting efficiency. Getting attribution right is key.
18–22% better accuracy, 25–40% more efficiency. Okay, attribution is clearly essential. Now, what about historical sales data itself? We touched on it, but how crucial is that for predicting those future optimal advertising times? Is it truly the crystal ball people hope it is?
Historical sales data is absolutely the bedrock. It's foundational for effective day parting. It really does act like a kind of crystal ball, yeah. It reveals those underlying temporal purchase patterns that are just essential for making informed decisions. For instance, it clearly shows those intraday peaks we talked about, those consistent surges you'll see in Amazon marketing stream data, the lunchtime boost between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m., the evening surges from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Historical data confirms these patterns over and over.
So it validates those peak times.
Absolutely. And beyond just daily patterns, historical data reveals clear weekly cycles. You might analyze your past sales and see that, say, for B2B products, Mondays and Tuesdays consistently have 15 to 30% higher conversion rates compared to weekends. That's a huge insight for scheduling. And for major seasonal events, Prime Day, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, historical sales spikes provide absolutely crucial guidance. This allows advertisers to implement preemptive bid increases, maybe boosting bids by plus 50% starting 2 hours before the official event launch, anticipating that surge based on past years.
Using history to prepare for future peaks. Smart.
Exactly. And this invaluable data empowers automated bid adjustments through advanced platforms. Tools like Seller App and IntentWise use these historical insights extensively. They use it to apply bid multipliers. So, example, automatically increase bids by 20 to 50% during those statistically validated peak conversion windows. They also implement precise budget rules, allocating that significant chunk, remember, 70 to 80% of daily budgets to the top 6–8 hours that have historically shown the highest conversion rates. And they can pre-configure event-driven scaling for those big shopping days, ensuring your campaigns are ready to capture maximum demand without you having to manually scramble. And the result of leveraging this historical data effectively, advertisers consistently report impressive outcomes. We're talking 18 to 35% lower ACOS and 22 to 40% higher ROAS after implementing these data-driven day parting strategies. It really works.
That sounds incredibly powerful, yeah. Using past data to guide future success seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But are there any limitations? Any risks to relying too much on historical data? Can it ever lead you astray?
Oh, absolutely. And here's where it gets, well, really interesting and requires careful thought. Historical data, while powerful, can definitely be misleading if you're not cautious. First, think about major market shifts. Sudden, unexpected events, a global pandemic, major supply chain disruptions can make past patterns completely obsolete, almost overnight. Remember the COVID-19 lockdowns? Traditional MF commute and shopping patterns just collapsed. Historical data from 2019 was suddenly useless in April 2020. This is why hybrid models, ones that blend historical data with real-time data feeds, are becoming so crucial. You see systems like MNTNs making 230,000 ad decisions per second. That's the level of real-time adaptation needed sometimes.
So history is a guide, not gospel. Need real-time too.
Exactly. Second, there's a definite risk of over-optimization. If you blindly exclude all your off-peak hours just because historical data shows low conversions, you might completely miss out on niche audiences. Think about night shift workers or people in different time zones you hadn't considered who do shop at those off hours. A smart solution here is to always reserve a small portion of your budget, maybe 15 to 20%, for exploratory bids during these traditionally low-performing times, just to test the waters, see if unexpected opportunities pop up.
Keep exploring, don't shut everything off.
Right. Third, we face temporal degradation. This is a known issue with AI models. Models trained on old data simply lose effectiveness over time. It's called pure aging effects. The world changes, consumer behavior shifts, competitors adapt, and your models need refreshing. They need retraining on newer data. Fourth, there are more technical concepts, like non-stationarity and covariate shift. In simpler terms, this just means the underlying patterns in your audience or the competitive landscape can change significantly over time. Things aren't stable. Most statistical models assume stable distributions, but the real-world advertising environment is constantly evolving. Old assumptions become less reliable. And finally, a really critical and often counterintuitive risk is Simpson's paradox.
Simpson's paradox. Sounds intriguing. What is that?
It's fascinating. It's a statistical phenomenon where a trend that appears in several different groups of data disappears or even reverses when you combine those groups. So you might see that day parting works well for product A and product B individually, but when you look at the combined data for both, the effect vanishes or flips. It means that having more historical data doesn't always lead to more accurate inferences, especially when you have many hidden or confounding factors at play. It's a powerful reminder that data analysis requires careful segmentation and interpretation.
Wow. Okay, so historical data is essential, but needs context, real-time checks, and careful analysis to avoid pitfalls like Simpson's paradox. So we're meticulously tracking our own performance, understanding historical data. But how do advertisers compare their day-parting performance against, say, industry standards? How do we know if our 18% ACOS, for example, is actually good, bad, or just average for our product category?
That's a really important question. Context is everything. You can use various benchmarking approaches to understand exactly where you stand. First off, Amazon itself provides some native tools. The Sponsored Brands Category Benchmark Report is fantastic for this. This report gives you quartile-based metrics, so you see the performance at the 25th, 50th, median, and 75th percentile for key indicators like impressions, CTR, ROAS, and ACOS. And it does this across 29 different product categories in 15-plus markets. So if you're a toy seller and your ACOS is, say, 16%, you can instantly look at this report and see, am I better or worse than the median ACOS for the toys and games category? It gives you immediate context.
That's super useful, a direct comparison within your category.
Exactly. And in addition to Amazon's native tools, many advertisers rely on third-party analytics platforms. Tools like Perpetua, PackView, and SellerApp often offer even more granular benchmarking. They might provide custom dashboards or even competitive intelligence heat maps that give you a really detailed view of how your day-parting performance stacks up, sometimes even against specific competitors you identify in your niche.
Okay, so tools exist to see how we compare overall. Now, what about our direct competitors? How do we account for their activity changes? I mean, they're probably day-parting too, changing bids. How does that affect our analysis of whether our day-parting is working? It feels like a moving target.
You're absolutely right. It is a moving target. It's a constant cat and mouse game in competitive marketplaces. Your competitors are likely using day parting, so you absolutely must integrate competitive intelligence into your analysis and strategy. One key tool, again from Amazon, is the Search Term Impression Share Report. This report can show you hourly impression share rankings for specific important keywords. It literally reveals when your rivals are dominating visibility. For example, if you consistently see competitor X holding 40% or more of the impression share for your top keyword during the 7:10 p.m. slot, that's a very strong signal they are aggressively escalating their bids during those precise hours.
So you can see when they're pushing hard.
Exactly. Then you layer on specialized third-party platforms. Tools like Seller Labs AdGenius offer visual heat maps. These show your rivals' estimated hourly performance, making it really easy to spot their strategic timing patterns. Even more advanced, platforms like IntentWise can actually detect these rival ad surges in near real time. So if it sees multiple coffee brands suddenly boosting their bids at 7 a.m., it can be configured to automatically increase your bids by, say, 10 to 15%, just to help you maintain your impression share and not get pushed down the page.
Automated counterpunching, almost.
Sort of, yeah. You can also implement proactive competitive counterbidding strategies yourself. If you observe a rival consistently boosting their cost per click by plus 40% during peak hours, you might deploy Amazon's dynamic bids up only bidding strategy, but maybe set a 50% cap on the increase. It keeps you competitive without completely breaking the bank. Another smart tactic is temporal campaign structuring. For a big event like Prime Day, maybe you decide to stagger your bids. Increase them significantly 2 hours before you expect your competitors' peak activity based on past data. Grab those early shoppers. You can even create geo-specific campaigns, target regions or states where key competitors seem less active during certain hours, capitalizing on those localized opportunities. And finally, back to attribution. Attribution-aware analysis is vital here too. If you suspect competitors' aggressive retargeting ads are intercepting shoppers after your initial late-night clicks, you might proactively reallocate, say, 30% of the conversion credit from those late-night clicks to the actual next-day purchase time. This avoids misattributing sales driven by peak hour consideration back to your off-peak clicks just because a competitor swooped in later.
So you need to be aware of their timing, their bids, even their retargeting.
Absolutely. By actively monitoring and strategically responding to all this competitive activity, advertisers can achieve really significant gains, potentially 25 to 40% higher ROAS during those critical competitive periods. It's about staying agile and informed.
This all sounds incredibly sophisticated and, frankly, yeah, maybe a bit daunting. It also sounds like there are plenty of tricky bits, potential pitfalls waiting. What are some of the biggest challenges, the common hurdles that advertisers run into when they're trying to implement these advanced data analysis and performance measurement strategies for day parting?
You're absolutely right. It's definitely not without its complexities. Several factors can, and often do, trip advertisers up. First, data latency is a persistent issue. Amazon marketing stream, our core source for that hourly data. It updates every 1 to 4 hours. It's not truly real time. This delay means you simply can't make immediate lightning-fast adjustments during rapidly shifting market conditions. Think of a sudden demand surge triggered by unexpected good weather for a seasonal product. You might miss the initial wave because the data hasn't caught up.
So there's always a bit of a lag.
There is. Second, even if you wanted to make manual adjustments really fast in response to something, you might run into API rate limits. These are basically platform restrictions on how many requests, like bid changes, you can make per second or per minute. This can physically prevent you from making rapid changes across many campaigns precisely when you need them most. Then there's a surprisingly complex challenge, especially for international sellers. Daylight saving time, DST adjustments. The US and the EU, for example, switch to and from DST on different dates. This causes temporary time shifts that can completely disrupt your carefully planned ad schedules if you're selling globally. And Amazon's Ads API, it actually lacks native DST handling. This forces advertisers into making manual adjustments twice a year per region and risking things like 5–7% CPC inflation during those transition weeks if schedules aren't managed meticulously.
DST. I wouldn't have even thought of that one.
Yeah.
What else?
Campaign fragmentation. For global sellers, needing to split campaigns by region just to apply time zone-specific day-parting rules, well, it can make managing performance data incredibly complex. You risk things like 15–20% ACOS spikes due to accidental duplicated spend or gaps in coverage if your synchronization across all these regional campaigns isn't absolutely perfect. We also face basic volume and velocity constraints. If you have a large product catalog, you're generating enormous volumes of hourly data. Processing all this in near real time is computationally demanding. Some of the more advanced machine learning models needed for optimization. They can require up to 100 times more memory than simpler approaches. This can limit how often or how granularly optimization can actually occur, especially hitting smaller sellers with fewer technical resources harder.
So the sheer amount of data can be a bottleneck.
It definitely can be. Then there's the broader challenge of data integration complexity. Successfully integrating your departing data not just within the ad platform, but also across your inventory management system, your pricing systems, that's technically challenging, especially for omnichannel retailers who need that complete holistic view. And finally, we absolutely must consider algorithmic performance risks. The AI and machine learning models used increasingly for recommendations or bid optimization and dayparting, they can have errors. They can have biases baked in from the data they were trained on. If the operational and business metrics these algorithms produce aren't accurate, it can directly harm your reputation, your customer experience, and your financial results. Errors in how they measure performance can genuinely distort your understanding of what's working, affecting long-term strategy.
Okay, so latency, DST, data volume, integration, even algorithmic risk. Lots of potential hurdles. Given all those challenges, it really sounds like we need some seriously advanced solutions to make day parting truly effective, manageable, and reliable. How are AI and predictive analytics stepping in now? How are they transforming these capabilities to address these complexities and really enhance performance measurement? What does the future look like here?
This is truly where the future gets exciting. AI and predictive analytics are fundamentally shifting day parting. We're moving away from static if-then rules to dynamic, truly intelligent, self-optimizing systems. For example, look at predictive demand modeling. We're seeing the use of advanced neural networks like long short-term memory, LSTM, and GRU networks. These sophisticated models analyze both deep historical patterns and live data streams to forecast conversion spikes with incredibly high accuracy. For instance, some LSTM models have achieved 85% accuracy in predicting demand surges during events like Prime Day. This allows advertisers to implement preemptive bid escalations a full 2 hours before the peaks even begin, maximizing their visibility right when it matters most.
85% accuracy in predicting Prime Day surges.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
it really is. Then you have the power of real-time bid adjustments, moving beyond that 1 to 4 hour lag. Platforms like Viant AI are using machine learning to optimize bids based on real-time performance signals and external data feeds. They've achieved 56% higher schedulability with this approach. What does that mean? It means ads for, say, rain gear can be triggered precisely during actual downpours in specific locations, leading to a reported plus 190% CTR, a huge jump. Or maybe iced coffee ads get activated instantly when local temperatures exceed 80 degrees ARPERV, resulting in a 41% ROAS lift. It's incredibly precise, context-aware advertising, responding literally to the moment.
Wow, triggering ads based on live weather or temperature.
Exactly, and this capability leads directly to automated continuous optimization. We're seeing self-learning algorithms, like those in Sky's AI dayparting system, that provide hourly bid recommendations. They constantly adjust not just for performance, but for factors like inventory changes, automatically pausing campaigns during stockouts, or responding intelligently to sudden market volatility. These AI systems have shown a 37.5% success rate in controlled benchmark experiments, like MEdGentBench, consistently outperforming static, predefined dayparting rules. Furthermore, cross-campaign synchronization is becoming much easier with AI. Tools like Seller Labs allow centralized control over all your different ad types. Sponsored products, brands, display ensuring consistent dayparting rules are applied everywhere. This unified approach has led to things like an 18% lower ACOS for B2B versus B2C products when using properly staggered schedules across all formats.
So the AI handles the complexity across different ad types.
It does. And crucially, there's the rise of explainable AI, or XAI. This is so important for building trust and adoption. XAI techniques are designed to help advertisers understand why the AI made a certain dayparting decision, why it raised bids at 3 p.m. but not 4 p.m. This transparency builds confidence and, importantly, helps users detect and mitigate any potential biases that might creep into the temporal targeting. Looking even further ahead, some researchers envision future dayparting incorporating biometric and physiological state detection.
Whoa, biometric.
Imagine moving beyond broad demographics or even location to targeting individual chronotypes, a person's natural biological sleep-wake cycle. Data on sleep patterns, maybe even energy level tracking from smart home devices or wearables, could theoretically trigger ads precisely aligned with a specific consumer's optimal cognitive or decision-making windows. The potential for higher conversion rates there is significant, though obviously raises privacy questions. We're also seeing incredible advances in voice commerce intent prediction. Machine learning algorithms can now predict purchase intent from analyzing voice utterances with surprisingly high accuracy. They can identify specific behavioral patterns in how someone speaks to their smart assistant that indicate shopping readiness, allowing for even more precise temporal targeting through voice channels. And finally, there are exciting real-time bidding innovations on the horizon. Things like blockchain technology bringing more transparency and security to ad auctions. And advanced techniques like graph neural networks, GNNs, that can model incredibly complex relationships between users, products, timing, and context, enabling truly sophisticated real-time bid optimization in programmatic advertising environments.
Chronotypes, voice intent, GNNs. The future sounds incredibly complex, but also potentially very powerful. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've truly taken a deep dive today, haven't we, into this fascinating world where precise data analysis meets strategic advertising, specifically through that powerful lens of dayparting. We've clearly seen how meticulously analyzing performance data can transform your ad spend, moving it from maybe a continuous, sometimes wasteful spray into a focused laser beam, targeting the exact moments your audience is most receptive and actually ready to engage or buy.
Indeed. We started by exploring those essential KPIs, ROAS, ACOS, conversion rate, and how that granular hourly data, often from Amazon Marketing Stream, reveals those consistent shopping patterns, like the midday and evening purchase surges. We then stepped into the perhaps more complex world of statistical methods, understanding how experimental designs like A/B tests and models like Granger Causality help us prove true impact, separating real causation from mere correlation.
And we tackled that crucial, often tricky topic of attribution, making absolutely sure that your strategic efforts during peak hours get the credit they actually deserve, even when the final purchase happens a bit later. We explored how historical data provides that essential roadmap, informing everything from smart bid multipliers to efficient budget allocation rules. And the results are tangible, often leading to 18 to 35% lower ACS and 22 to 40% higher ROAS when done right.
We also highlighted the vital role of benchmarking your performance against industry standards, getting that context, and reacting swiftly and strategically to competitive activity, ensuring your campaigns remain agile and effective in a dynamic market. And while challenges like data latency, those tricky time zone complexities, and the nuances of ever-evolving algorithms certainly exist, we've seen how AI and predictive analytics are stepping up. They're offering incredible solutions for real-time bid adjustments, more sophisticated attribution, and even predicting future demand with remarkable accuracy.
It seems abundantly clear that mastering data analysis and performance measurement in day parting isn't just about pinching pennies or saving money on ad spend. It's really about strategically building your brand presence, effectively capturing market share when it matters most, and ultimately creating a more relevant, less annoying advertising experience for your customers.
Absolutely. And maybe the key takeaway is this. When executed with that statistical precision and data-driven approach, day parting's cost savings, which can realistically deliver a 12 to 18% ACOS reduction, almost always far outweigh any potential marginal revenue risks from slightly reduced exposure. By adopting a truly data-first approach, leveraging insights from every single click and conversion, and embracing the immense power of AI and advanced analytics, advertisers can realistically achieve impressive net ROAS gains of 20 to 35%.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. As we rapidly move towards this future, we discuss one dominated by voice shopping, interconnected smart home devices, and increasingly personalized algorithms dictating consumer behavior. What entirely new metrics will we even need to invent? What new ways of measuring performance will be necessary to truly understand effectiveness in these constantly evolving digital desire windows? Something to ponder. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into data analysis and performance measurement for day parting. We really hope you feel much more informed and perhaps inspired to think about how these powerful insights can change how you approach information and strategy in your own world.